Welcome to the NRAO SKYNET 20-meter geodetic radio telescope website. Join me as we explore in this tutorial how to use the 20-meter radio telescope via SKYNET. Go to this webpage, this link, www.gv.nrao.edu/20m/fantastic, and you'll be taken to this website where you can explore a number of things about the 20-meter telescope when you have time, but the most important two things to us today are Contact Us and SKYNET. In order to use SKYNET, you first have to contact somebody at the observatory by clicking on this link and making contact with an observer who will then work with SKYNET to get you a login under the Green Bank group. That's the only way to observe via SKYNET. So if you click on the SKYNET link here, and then here again, it will open up a new browser tab to show you the SKYNET website. SKYNET is unique in that it's a network of optical telescopes, the headquarters of which is based at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. These telescopes are located all over the world, and until now they've just been optical. Now the 20-meter radio telescope at Green Bank adds a new dimension of astronomy to the SKYNET program, in that you can now get radio images both day and night of objects in the sky at various frequencies. When you're at this page, there are a variety of links you can click on. There's a link for help, there's a link for community, which shows you the various, which will eventually show you various fora that you could communicate with other SKYNET users within. And then there's, of course, sites. I tell you about the various SKYNET sites and so forth. There is also a page to look at the various telescopes that are on SKYNET, and it tells you about those telescopes as well. Interestingly, there's a page called SKYNET Live. It tells you what the telescopes are doing right now, whether they're doing anything or not. Most of them are idle, of course, because for one reason or another, perhaps they don't have observations, or it's not the right time of day to be observing at night. The Green Bank telescope is always ready, though it may not always be in SKYNET control. And you can see where they are right here. You can scroll over them and see where these various telescopes are. Currently, the Green Bank 20-meter is over in this location. Now, clicking back to home, once you get a login, you can go ahead and put your login here, and it will take you to a page that shows you what's called My Observatory. And if you click on here, it'll just reload the page for us, which it just did. This is your observatory, and you can see I've done a number of observations here over the last few weeks of various things, and these observations are listed by the name of the object, the SKYNET ID for the object, the date, of course, the priority, and certain people have higher priority than others. At Green Bank, some people are able to have a priority of 3 because on the 20-meter at least, but most people who are a part of SKYNET, as far as teachers and so forth, will have a priority more like 5 or 6 or even 7. And that's okay, because a lot of the time the telescopes aren't being used, and that's really not a problem. You'll get your data relatively quickly. You can see the state of the data. I have some projects that are ready to go, are ready to be done. I have one project that happens to be active at the moment using multiple telescopes. This is an optical image, and then or a set of optical images, and then all my Green Bank objects, for the most part, with the exception of 2, have been completed. Now, there's a variety of things here. You can search your own observations by using this particular search query box here. But really the main thing is, the main thing we're interested in doing here is making observations. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add an observation. So we click on this link for adding an observation, and you choose which type. Do you want an optical observation or radio observation? For this tutorial, we're going to talk about radio observations primarily. Maybe we'll come back and do an optical one here in a moment. Now you can look up the coordinates by name. Let's say I want to make a radio observation of Cassiopeia A. I could simply type in Cass A and then hit lookup, and SKYNET, oh, didn't like that one. Let's try a different one. Let's try Jupiter. Okay, so SKYNET knows where Jupiter is, and so it just comes on up with the proper information. And then I choose which type of observation I want to make, whether it's a track observation, a map observation, or a daisy scan. You can find more information on these various types of observations and what parameters to use for them in the abbreviated manual for the 20-meter. Then you set your priority. my priorities are a little bit more liberal than some people's priorities might be, but you might have 5 or 6 or 7. If you're not in a big hurry, then go ahead and choose the last one. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. Some people who own these telescopes are the ones who have priorities 1 and 2. Okay, you're part of the green bank group. That should be the only one that comes up there. And then you can specify your minimum elevation and your solar separation if you so choose. You can also specify the center or choose a solar system object from a particular list. This Jupiter would come up here. Once you're ready, go ahead and click Next. And then I just chose a track scan. So the only thing I can do is tell it how long do I want it to track that object. And let's say I want to track that object for 2 minutes, 120 seconds. I'll type that in there, and then I'll go ahead and hit Next. And then I can specify the frequency. Let's say I want to track that object at 9,000 megahertz. Notice it's in megahertz. I can specify the number of channels. I can specify the start channel, the end channel. You know, in this case, we've got some channels off the beginning, or knocked off of the beginning and the end of this number of channels. I can specify some other parameters that are a bit more advanced. For most of us, though, the frequency is the important thing. Let's say but if you did want to do a calibration scan, for instance, we could do that. It's by doing that here. Well, let's go ahead and hit Next. All we want to do here is change the frequency if we want to, or just leave it the way it was, but be sure to note that. So we'll hit Next, and this gives us a confirmation page where we confirm whether or not we like our parameters. And of course, we can go back and we can change things, or we can just go ahead and hit Submit. And once I do that, the observation shows up as my next one, saying that it's ready to go. And that's it. That's all there is to submitting a radio observation. Let's go ahead and add another one. Let's say I want to add another radio observation. This time I want to look up, let's make an observation of the moon. And the moon shows up nicely. And let's say I want to make a daisy scan this time. I'll go ahead and leave everything else the same. I'll hit Next. And then I have to specify some parameters. Now, the radius and the radial period and the duration are important things to specify in a daisy scan or in a map scan. Now keep in mind that we measure things in the sky in degrees, arc minutes, and arc seconds. So in terms of the moon, the moon happens to be a radius of about 30 arc minutes. The telescope has a beam width at X band of approximately 6 arc minutes. So I want to just keep all that in mind. And you can see all that in the comprehensive user's manual for the 20-meter radio telescope. But because the moon is 30 arc minutes, I'm going to go ahead and say I want an observation done with 60 arc minute radius. And I want to do just a quick observation, so I'm going to tell it to the radial period to be 30 seconds. It'll take 30 seconds to go across that entire radius, and then a duration of only 120 seconds, so a 2-minute scan. So, and you just leave these at 0. That's fine for most of us. We'll hit Next, and again we can specify our frequency. Let's go ahead and take it at 10 gigahertz or 10,000 megahertz, and we'll leave everything else the same because we're not doing any calibration scans or looking at particular channels. This might be useful if you're looking at, if you want to look at, identify a piece of RFI or something like that along those levels, or perhaps want to try to pick up a signal from a NASA signal or something like that, or a signal of a known frequency band. But for us, we're most interested in the center frequency, so we'll go ahead and hit Next. It takes us to a confirmation page again, where we just verify that all of our information is what we want it to be, hit Submit, and we're done. There it is again, ready to go. So sometime when this telescope gets put back into SKYNET observation mode, or SKYNET control, I will be able to get my observations completed. Now, where does the data go? Well, where do I find the data? Well, if I go back to the 20-meter radio telescope and I go to this page, it says Data Processing, and I click on one of these links here. In this case, let's go ahead and look at the live update of 20-meter data. I can see the most recent data taken, and this was a scan of the moon taken just a little while ago, and I can go from there. I can click on these various links and get the data in various forms. Okay, so that is how to use the 20-meter radio telescope via SKYNET. There's one other place I'll take you just to close things out, and that is to go to back to the data processing page, and we'll look at the 20-meter status. And this page is another SKYNET page that tells you what's going on with the 20-meter, where it's pointed at the moment, and so forth. This gets updated every few minutes. Okay, well, That's the tutorial for today. Thank you for listening and happy observing.